I love that color. That's such a happy, beautiful, rich
It
experience.
almost kind of looks like what the Earth looks like when you're a bazillion miles away from the planet Moon.
Yes, I just squinted at it,
from
and you're
the
right.
Moon, looking back at the
planet
Earth.
Moon. From the planet Moon.
Isn't the Moon a star?
No, the Moon is a planet, darling.
The Sun is a star. Is the Moon really a planet?
The Moon is a planet,
Don't look at me like that. The Sun is a star.
Planet.
Is the Sun not a star?
I don't know what the Sun is.
The Sun is
we
a
don't
star,
know what
isn't
the
it?
Sun is.
The Sun is a star. The Moon is not a planet.
Moon
I
is
knew
a
it.
planet.
I knew it. You were
Excuse
trying
me?
to take me
No.
down that road.
Wait,
the Moon is not a
excuse
planet.
Me, Chunky, if you're listening to
This
me,
is
you have
Rosebud.
to Google the Moon.
Someone,
okay?
I can guarantee you someone's Googling right now.
The Moon
I
is
knew
such
it was
a
not
planet. I can't even
The Moon
stand
is
it.
not a planet.
What else is it if it's not a planet?
It is not. I believe it's a star or something.
It's
it is
a
not
moon. It's a moon.
Didn't you do that thing in grade school where you had to name the planets, and there was Uranus and there was Saturn and the one with the rings and and then the Earth and with the Moon is never in there, dude. It's not a planet. All right, here, look. This is key line.
I don't know.
I
don't
feel
know
like
what it is
sometimes,
besides.
though
What is it?
I am
Baseball or
educated,
something?
I exposed
what is
during
it,
the
cheese?
show
Come on, it's a planet.
That this blonde of mine could be real.
Okay.
The Moon is what?
A natural
the moon
satellite.
Is a natural
but
satellite.
Things live on it.
What's
that means
mean?
it's a planet. I don't know.
Is that what Google said?
I don't know what
No,
it
I don't
says.
like that at all. I don't even know what that
either.
means.
Lazarus was dead, okay? That whole thing also didn't happen.
Amazing Grace, I'm a total loser.
The world's largest atheist orange juice.
Also, penguins are kind of high.
And welcome to Atheist Airwaves, where you might catch the Terps and have to Google the moon. I'm Jay Guerrero.
I'm Megan Grime.
I'm Christian Ferris.
And I'm Susan Turpin. Can I try that again?
Okay,
I'm Susan the Turpin.
Let's just reset and I'll give you a real one. Welcome to Atheist Airwaves, your no-filter look at current news and issues facing atheists and the atheist community. I'm Jay Guerrero.
I'm Megan Grime.
I'm Christian Ferris.
And I'm Susan the Turpin. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter by searching for Atheist Airwaves. We record live every Tuesday at 7:30 Central, so if you're listening via podcast, we encourage you to join us in the Ustream chat room and participate in the show.
Our intro audio.
The fuck was that?
I know, right?
How many morons can get on live television and radio? What the fuck was that?
At least two. One of them is a fashion designer, so I can't really expect a whole hell of a lot from him. I'm sorry.
So this was QVC host Sean Killinger and designer Isaac Mizrahi, and they're the ones who could not decide. There are models in the background who clearly know what the moon is, judging by the smirks. And when
they get the right answer, they're like, "Oh no, that can't be right."
doesn't sound right.
I think my favorite part was when she goes, "You know, I like to think of myself as educated," and I'm like, "Do you? Do you really?"
Of course, she thinks of herself like that.
Exactly.
Someone has to do it. No one else is going to do it for her. Oh my God! You know, at least planet is a sensible answer. What is this star thing?
Do you not? Okay. I'm sorry. The sun.
Jay can't even.
Have you ever gotten moonburned? I'm sorry.
Can't it happen?
Moonburned?
But maybe it could be like just a little bitty star.
Exactly.
Well, and like the Bible calls it the little light, right? I mean,
Because that's where we go to for science. Astronomy is the Bible.
Did you really just go to...
Well, I'm just saying
Thank
that
you, Megan. What the fuck, Christian?
So for like 2,000 to 6,000 years ago, this is not a bad opinion to have, is that, the moon obviously has its own light if you are a Bronze Age idiot. And
Too bad we're in 2015.
Except it disappears sometimes.
And we've been on the moon.
yeah, like I wonder if we could like call them and ask them, "Oh, what do you feel about landing people on the sun?" Like, if
Would you like to volunteer?
We'll just do it at night, so then it'll be totally fine.
That's the best.
Guess what state they broadcast out of?
Oklahoma.
Philadelphia.
I was going to go with Pennsylvania. I was like a second.
Which explains quite a bit about this whole thing. But
Jesus, penis.
I'm sorry, Pennsylvania. You have a beautiful state, but you filled it with a whole bunch of knuckle draggers.
Fucking Pennsylvania, man.
I don't get it. Oh, and one last thing before we move on, because the guy at one point says, "I think it's a planet because things live on it."
That was amazing.
Like dust and
dust bunnies or something. They're like,
There's a flag there,
was
so
gonna
obviously
say.
people live there.
Conspiracies live there. That's what lives there. Jesus. Fucking.
No flag, no country.
all right. So before we move on to news,
Can I be a moon secessionist?
oh, that's a good idea, actually.
I want the moon to secede.
I think it already has that.
It is a very Texas mentality.
It's not letting anyone go there, so Okay. So I did want to mention that we got a super ton of email this week from listeners, including one from Jeremy in the Netherlands, who helped me fix an audio issue with our podcast. So if things are better this time, it's all
Damn.
Jeremy.
What was the issue?
Thank you, Jeremy.
Jay?
I'll tell you later.
Thank you. Post show.
We got things from Australia and all kinds of things all over the place. So thank you all for doing that.
We're not going to talk about any of it.
Well, no, I'm getting to it. If you would like to be awesome like them, please send us email at god@atheistairwaves.com. That is also the email you can send your best Muhammad cartoon to if you want to enter our free Atheist t-shirt contest, courtesy of reasonistproducts.com. So they are putting up a free t-shirt for the person who creates the best Muhammad cartoon over the next week. We'll announce the winner on next week's show on the 27th.
Are we contestants?
No.
But then how are they going to try and kill me if I don't draw Muhammad?
Okay.
I think they're going to try and kill you anyway.
Oh, okay, cool.
Maybe we should just compulsory. Okay, we'll do it too, and then
I don't
we'll
have
just
to win.
Right, there we go.
Okay.
That's what we'll do. Everyone has to draw their own Muhammad cartoon.
I'm
also.
so looking forward to
Okay,
this.
so you don't have to have super artistic ability. We're not going to take off points because you can only do bad stick figures where you can't even really draw a circle. That's fine. Make it funny. Make it offensive as hell.
Draw it with your dick. Who cares?
But I don't have one.
Take
You have a
Jay's.
small one?
I can only monologue with mine.
All right, so do that in the next week. Send it over to god@atheistairwaves.com. The winner will win their choice of any shirt you want on reasonistproducts.com. So go check them out. Also, I think they're only like $12.99 each, and there's some cool shirts in there too.
Word.
Okay, so I wanted to interject this, even though it's not in the show even though it's not in the show sheet, and I've only talked to Terps about it. Listener email. Icelandic elf sex.
Y'all both look so confused right now, and it's fucking glorious.
I'm confused,
Yeah, I
but
didn't
I'm
know. Was
in.
this a yes or no question? Was
no,
it a
this is
visual
just-
round? I don't know.
No, this is just prepared to be amazed.
Are we passing out drugs first? Because someone
So-
else has them.
Oh, wait,
obviously.
we were supposed to wait on that?
Nick from Michigan sent me an article about banging elves in Iceland, and I'm not going to lie, it sounds amazing. I've got a quick clip I can play. The woman who's speaking here is the brainchild of the whole operation. She has written a book called Please Yourself.
Yours.
Elf. Yeah. Huh? All right, check this shit out.
So they're not technically elves, they're more like hidden people or huldufolk, which is what we call them. So they're not like small ugly gnomes, they're more like tall and beautiful, and they almost look like their skin almost emits light. Elves sort of know what you want in bed they don't need to ask, they sort of can read your mind.
There's no consent involved.
If they know what you're thinking.
Yeah.
The elf is just like, Judge, they were thinking yes the whole time. But apparently she says that all elves, so you just go out onto whatever they have in Iceland, whatever that stuff is. With
Trees.
Yeah, okay. And you'll just find these elves, and they're all bisexual.
Of course.
But if you're not into that, they won't mess with you.
How do we know they're bisexual?
Because this woman told me.
Oh, okay.
And she's the elf expert.
She's the Icelandic elf sex expert.
Elf sexpert.
Yes, there we go.
There we go.
That's weird. So these are the kinds of things you should be sending us at god@atheistairwaves.com, because that's amazing.
pretty awesome.
All right.
Okay.
We're going to ask Darrel Ray about it later. So that and
Yes.
Caveman.
Oh, and by the way, guys, Darrel fucking Ray's on the show.
Yay! All right. So we have some follow-up from stories we've been following. I'm going to try and blow through these relatively quickly, because I think we've covered the hell out of them.
Gonna blow through them.
Okay, so first up is the lashing of Raif Badawi, which has been put on hold indefinitely for medical reasons, and his wife says he might not survive a second round of 50 lashes, much less the whole 950 he has left.
Okay, so hold on. He took 50 lashes, right? And he seemed to do it relatively okayly.
Yeah.
Well, do you know how they're delivered?
Yes.
With a
There was a
fucking whip.
video.
In quick succession. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Bam, 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 bam. Yeah.
Yeah, and what's the medical issue? And why do they care?
Well, they don't want him
They
to die,
don't-
apparently.
yeah.
They want to give him the 1,000
Well, it's
lashes.
not torture if you die.
Yeah.
No,
It
true.
stops
It's true.
hurting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's the medical issue?
Well, I think he's just too weak and in too much pain. Because we were talking last week about how it didn't look that bad. I mean, it was quick, but it didn't look bad. There's video.
I know.
But apparently, and plus he was all like, victory sign afterwards, and so he put a good face on it, and then apparently it collapsed the second he left.
Yeah, and you
I'm
got to
calling
think he
bullshit.
wasn't like coming from a full dinner and a full night's sleep. I mean, how long has he been sitting in that cell?
I'm calling bullshit.
On what?
I'm
Yeah, I was
calling
gonna say,
bullshit.
which one?
I'm calling bullshit on the fact that he's so drastically in a health crisis that he can't take it.
I don't think so.
I think he's probably pulling it. I would totally fucking pull it if I had another 850 lashes or whatever he's set up against. Oh, I can't do it. I'm gonna die.
Oh, you think that's gonna? No,
It's not going to stop them from doing it.
Right. Exactly right. Yeah, he's not gonna be able to fool them. They don't care about they care about making him survive the thing, but they don't care if he's in pain or not. So I don't think you can call in sick from Saudi lashes.
Well, I don't know what I think about this, but I just came from Scotland, and I am a
They do that a
member
lot there?
with the well, apparently they have a history of it, and with their blasphemy laws. And the Scottish Secular Society awarded him last month the Aikenhead Award, and it comes from the name from Thomas Aikenhead. It was a 20-year-old Edinburgh student, 1697. Was found persecuted and hung for committing blasphemy, and the
In
Scottish Secular Society
In
came out and said, "You
1697?
know what? We're going to perpetuate the idea that we need to support for common humanity and compassion and all that." And so they named the award after him, and Raif was just awarded with it. His wife accepted it.
Yeah, I think I saw that actually. But I think Scotland still has those laws on the books, right? I know Ireland does.
Dude, that's two completely different countries. Scotland's they're very almost laid back about a lot of the religious stuff, but they still have a ways to go. Their history is
Their
different.
nuts
from
flopping
ours.
around in their skirts. Of course they're laid back.
So United States and Canada, are those two separate countries?
I don't know.
Hold on. I think it's a satellite.
There are things living on it, so...
Are you sure it's not a star?
The shining star.
So people are still trying to fight to get his sentence reduced, but I don't think that's going to work for him. I think the Saudis are going to do this thing whenever they're going to be able to. The other thing is Michaela Salt, who is the 11-year-old that we talked about a couple of times last year, starting about a year ago, who said she didn't want chemo even though the survival rate for her particular bone and blood cancer was 90% and 0% if she didn't get chemo. She's also the girl that posted that video that said, "Oh, and none of this matters because Jesus appeared to me and said, 'You're healed.'" She has predictably died this week.
Are we supposed to applaud or mourn? I'm not sure.
No, it's a mourning thing.
Okay.
Because she's a kid. And
Yeah.
it was obviously not
She's 11.
her own will and volition.
Right.
Well, one of the big questions is, even if you're misguided, maybe, in your thoughts, how is that drastically different from being pro-euthanasia, not euthanasia, suicide, and, well, euthanasia too, I guess.
because she's 11
Yeah.
is the thing. Like, if she was 18, I don't care. But if she's 11, her parents are not taking care of her. Her parents are killing her. She has a 90% success rate if she takes medicine. She has 0 if she doesn't. And her parents were like, she doesn't want to go through the pain and whatever. So we're just going to let her die from cancer because that's lovely.
Jay's basically not allowed to talk about this.
Yes, that is the case.
That's what we've determined
Actually, I
after
was
a lot of
baiting,
arguing.
but go ahead.
I know, which is why I said Jay's basically not allowed to talk about
You
this.
just went straight to third person. Yeah.
So that all is bad enough, but the family statement afterwards put me through the frickin' roof. They said, quote, after a valiant fight almost a year from diagnosis, our daughter Michaela suffered a stroke on Sunday morning that she just couldn't recover from. Surrounded by the love and support of her family, her community, and her nation, on Monday, January 19th at 1:50 p.m. in her 12th year, Michaela completed her course. She is now safely in the arms of Jesus. Chemotherapy did irreversible damage to her heart and major organs.
What?
This was the cause of her stroke. This thing that they did for like 2 weeks, that's a year ago. She had chemotherapy a year ago, and they're saying, not the cancer. No.
No,
it
not
was
at
the
all.
chemotherapy she had last year. That's what killed her. This is how dumb these people are.
Are they going to try and now sue for some kind of medical malpractice because they think the chemotherapy
right.
killed her?
Oh, that would be
I wouldn't put it
amazing.
past them, to be honest with
Can
you.
we sue them for trying to breed again?
Can we forcibly sterilize them?
No.
I
no.
like that idea.
I'm against. That was a little too visual.
I high-fived Megan, I high-fived Susan, and then I high-fived Ferris in the forehead.
Anyway, that is really ridiculous, and I can't believe
That you're still talking.
Two more quick updates. First, the bishop we talked about last week who killed the bicyclist guy. She was way wasted. So the
0.22
Yeah.
was her BAC.
What? Who did
Heather
what?
Cook, she was the
Episcopal
Bishop in the Diocese of Maryland.
Somebody killed somebody on a bicycle?
You were here, right?
She did a hit and run on a bicyclist who later died. She sped off and was chased down by other bicyclists, and she eventually returned back to the scene. She was not immediately arrested for it, though, because the church was saying, no, she totally didn't realize what was going on, guys, even though her windshield's cracked and she smells like a brewery.
Yeah, I do not remember that story at all. But okay.
Okay.
So I'm just trying to figure out, was she like driving really slowly, or were those like some badass cyclists that chased her down?
Probably both.
Right.
She probably couldn't see. Yeah, she probably couldn't see through her windshield.
She had a dead person
In her grill.
there.
Much like a license plate in your window. It's just gets
Oh, that was a little pre-show. Sorry.
So she was originally denied bail, actually, because they said she was a high flight risk, but she's out on like millions of dollars of bail now.
2.5 million.
Wow, I wonder how that got covered.
Yeah. Church money, yeah. This is what your dollars go to when you tithe, is covering up for pedophile priests and getting Episcopal bishops out of manslaughter charges or whatever they're going to charge her with.
Okay, so the story was that she was at a 2.2?
Yes.
Or
Point
0.22,
0.22, yeah.
sorry.
So when it happened,
Three
I think
times legal limit.
it happened the day that we recorded the last show, and no one had gotten those results back. So yeah, she was totally. This is the same woman who in 2010 was arrested with a .27, I believe, and vomit all over her
All over
shirt,
herself.
and she was smoking.
Yeah,
I do
she
remember
admitted
that. I
to
remember
yeah,
that.
she admitted to smoking. One of her tires was completely shredded on the
Yeah.
rim.
This is a great lady. All right, so let's move on to news. Yes.
News.
Never do that again.
Come on.
Do that again.
All right.
I think this is now what we're calling it. I think this is the news segment.
So Nick from Michigan also sent this one in to us before it proceeded to tear up the internet. Alex Malarkey is the young man who recounted the story of his
Right?
visit. What?
That's the best last name ever.
Malarkey.
I know, right? could it be any more obvious?
Yes.
It's like he telegraphed this whole thing.
This is a fucking troll, isn't
Right.
it?
So Alex Malarkey, he recounted the story of his visit to heaven after a car accident that left him paralyzed. His father co-authored the 2010 book, The Boy Who Came Back from Heaven. But this week, the boy and his mother have recanted the story, and he admits that he made the whole thing up.
Shit bang. That's the word you're looking for.
Shebang.
The phrase I'm looking for is, well, no shit. I mean, really?
Because didn't they base it off of what he said, like, right after he was coming out of a coma with severe brain damage? And it's like,
I don't think so. I think that this just happened later. I think the father's just a fraud.
Well, that was my question because I was reading a lot of articles and I couldn't find anything that said who started this and then who ended it exactly. Was it the father or the mother or the boy? Who was promoting the boy to do it? Because clearly it was the parents that helped perpetuate it.
Right.
Yeah.
So here's the deal. You have to do some reading between the lines of some of these stories, but it seems like the dad co-authored the book, took all the money, shared it not at all with the kid or his mom, who I assume they're not together anymore, and the mom has custody. So now she's like, the mom is like, I want some of this book cash. And the dad was like, no. So then I think the mom said, hey, son, why don't you go out there and tell him it's a bunch of BS and we're going to take dad's cash cow out.
So if the prophet's not there, the prophet's not there.
Oh.
Damn.
I hate all of you.
That might have been the best pun I've heard on this show fucking yet.
So the kids.
Damn, that was like a Jay and Silent Bob. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry too. The kid's statement is still super yucky though, because he's traded in these fantastic lies for entirely more banal ones, but he's still gross. So in part it read, quote, people have profited from lies and continue to. They should read the Bible, which is enough. The Bible is the only source of truth. Anything written by man cannot be infallible.
Inflammable.
The Bible was written by men, little dude. Anyway, he goes on to say, it is only through repentance of your sins and a belief in Jesus Christ as the Son of God who died for your sins, even though he committed none of his own, so that you can be forgiven. May you learn of heaven outside of what is written in the Bible, not by reading a work of man.
Then how are you supposed to learn about it when you die? Is that what the solution is?
The whole thing can be summed up with, guys, he tells this story, guys, heaven is totally real. And he's like, oh, I was lying about that, but heaven is totally real, you guys.
Swear.
It's still real.
Fool me once.
Shame on. Can't get fooled again. Yeah.
But this whole thing actually sort of reminds me. Does anybody else remember that Million Little Pieces guy?
Oh, yeah.
The guy who he wrote this so-called memoir, and it even was in like Oprah's book club and shit like that, and she went totally apeshit over this guy.
Because she's Oprah.
Yeah, she does that. And he came out later saying, oh, yeah, this wasn't entirely true. But what they did with it, they didn't take the book off the shelves. They moved it from nonfiction to fiction.
That's not okay.
Yeah, no.
But it was fiction.
Yeah. But he didn't suffer any sort of
it was apparently
consequences.
Good. It was good.
Good enough for people to still buy it after all of that came out.
I thought that was cool because he originally went to the publishers and he said, look, I got this story based on my real experience. And they said, it's kind of bland and silly. And then he falsified, he made it up. And he's like, so this is fiction. And they go, well, this is stupid. It's like everybody else's fiction. So then he went back with the fiction, but the original story of this is real. And they're like, we love it.
Oh my God.
I can't blame the guy for doing that.
But you'd kind of figure that this is what these people would do, that they would do the same thing because they wanted him to see what they could get out of it. Or is he going to rewrite it and tout it as a fiction book now? So he and his mom can get the money?
I kind of feel like it's different, though. I kind of feel like telling a real story that could happen to you is different from falsifying this made-up fairy tale that's going to make people do weird crap. Mm-hmm. I feel like am I alone in that? Like there's a difference in the level of crapitude.
No,
You're just alone.
There's all sorts of literature out there, just in the social science community talking about, and the neuroscience. It's like, well, all these people had spiritual, quote unquote experiences, and they give these stories out much like the way that was relayed, but with the overall umbrella understanding that this is somebody's personal experience, which can be totally independent of truth and reality.
I just don't know what to do with this stuff.
I like how you do that exasperated sigh while you're looking at me like
know,
I
well,
am
it's
the
just-
reason for your annoyance today.
I'm looking to you for wisdom, Susan.
Have you met me?
Give me something, Turps.
Come on.
All right, we've got like 4 minutes. Do we want to hit something real quick, or do we want to just go straight to Darrel Ray?
You.
You already did. Not as
Do
hard
it
as you hit
again.
your head on the.
That was glorious.
Those of you who showed up to the chat room late, Jay headbutted the microphone, and the microphone headbutted his tablet. It was amazing. Let's see if we can get Darrel Ray on the line early.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like if we move on to the next one, we're going to want to talk about it too much.
I agree. Why don't you do a thing, Jay, while I do that?
I can do a thing. One moment, please. One moment, please. Corpus Christi Atheist meets every Sunday at 5:30 p.m. This weekend we're going to be at B&J's Pizza. That's on Airline, just east of SPID, or east of Airline on SPID, excuse me. If you don't know where that is, visit ccatheist.com for a list of our public events. You can connect with our affiliates and our sister organizations through southtexascor.com.
Thank you for doing a thing.
You're welcome.
All right, let me call Darrel.
Missed call from.
Good evening.
Hello, Darrel. How are you, sir?
Well, I'm pretty good. Trying to wolf down a little bit of bite to eat. I didn't have time to eat today, hardly.
Well, you continue eating and we'll just sing you praises or something.
We'll sit here and tell you how much we love you. Or we can talk about Kidman gangbangs again.
Or I can just go through all my questions because I'm long-winded and you can eat.
No, that's all right. You're just about 3 minutes early, are you not?
We are. We were wrestling. We're like, we don't have anything. We don't have time to get into anything new, but we want to talk to Darrel, so we called you a little early. I'm sorry.
That's not a problem. Not a problem at all. Who am I talking to? Give me names.
All right. So I'm Christian.
I'm Jay. Yep. We've spoken before.
Right.
I'm Megan.
And I'm Susan.
Susan and Megan, okay.
Yes, sir. All right. So let me give you a quick introduction, and then we'll get rolling on this thing.
Does it sound good enough for my end?
It's beautiful.
Excellent.
Glorious.
Okay, good. Thanks.
So, Dr. Darrel Ray joins us today. He is the founder and chairman of the board of directors and okay. He is the founder and chairman of the board of directors of Recovering from Religion. Dr. Ray has been a psychologist for over 30 years and is the author of 4 books, including The God Virus, How Religion Infects Our Lives and Culture, and Sex and God, How Religion Distorts Sexuality, which he was kind enough to speak to us about last year. He has been a student of religion most of his life and holds a master's degree in religion as well as a bachelor's degree in sociology, anthropology, whole bunch of ology, Jay.
Ology.
With a doctorate in psychology. Most recently, he has written an article for American Atheist Magazine entitled Male Shame, The Root of Female Shame, and he is the host of his own podcast, Secular Sexuality. Welcome back to our show, Darrel.
Good to get back, guys. Thanks for having me. This is a really interesting topic, and I'm glad you're one of the first I'm going to get the opportunity to talk to about it.
Excellent.
Excellent. So before we get to the meat of this conversation, though, I had a thought on my ride home from work, and I wanted to run this by you. So apart from Susan here and like 2 other people, you pretty much think about sex more than anyone else in this country, right? I mean...
Wait a minute. Where did I come from in all of this?
Well, we know you.
Okay.
I don't know about you or Susan, but I would prefer to know more about Susan.
She is pretty cute.
Stick around for the post show because all kinds of things go on there.
Do you like redheads? No.
I'm non-discriminating there.
I like it. I like it a lot.
Okay. So, on your appearance on our show, I have never seen you match your hair. That's great.
I know. That's great.
It's all red now. So, your appearance last year on our show has been a favorite, both of ours and our fans. And we asked you a question about misandry seeming to be tangled up in misogyny, and you teased this article. So we've been looking forward to this coming out for a long time. Can you give us an overview of your basic thesis on male shame?
yeah, there's as much shaming of men as there is of women. The problem is we hear about it with respect to women in our culture, but what I wanted to do in the article was tie the two together because they are two sides of the same coin. It's really, once you understand what I'm talking about, you realize, wow, why didn't I see that before? And that's the reaction I get from a lot of people. Mm-hmm. It's like very obvious, except it's not so obvious. It's a lot of things in life. You know, once you've got them pointed out to you, you start seeing them everywhere. I call it the red Volkswagen effect. I bought my first red Volkswagen in 1972, and I'd never seen one on the road. But the day I bought my red Volkswagen, suddenly I'm seeing it everywhere.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's what you see in male shame. So here's the thumbnail sketch. And I'm going to be speaking to men mostly. And women, I want you to listen in because I think it'll help you understand why men act so crazy, why men act the way they do. And I have for years puzzled, why do men act the way they do? And I agree with a lot of my female friends that men are kind of weird, and you can't understand why they behave that way. Well, I think this explains some, if not, certainly not all, but some of that so-called behavior that seems unusual or unexplainable. First of all, if you're a boy and you're in 8th grade, you're born a boy, let's say a cis boy, right from the very beginning, your parents are programming you into a certain way of thinking and being, and they're even buying colors to make colors of clothing that match their perception of the gender binary.
And even before you're born, they're doing that.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. Nowadays, when they can get the sonogram, they know what you are, and they've got the whole room ready for a boy or a girl. But in this case, we're talking about boys. So from the day you're born, you're being taught about the gender binary in very subtle ways. But male shame is being taught in a way that you don't even realize it. For example, my grandmother was changing my little brother's diapers one day, and he reached down and touched his penis. Now this kid's probably no more than 6 or 8 months old. He touched his penis. She slapped his penis away right in front of me. Not his penis. Slapped his hand away from his penis.
I was pretty sure I knew what you meant.
Bad Freudian slip there, I think.
It's kind of Jay's weekend. It was the slapping of the. Okay, sorry.
So what happens is I'm witnessing this. My brother obviously probably doesn't remember it at all, but I'm witnessing this. I'm being taught something about my own body, and that's a shame message because my grandmother was really into fundamentalist Christian sexual shame. So that's an early message. And how many boys are given those kinds of messages? You get into school and you touch yourself, and the teacher berates you for, putting your hands down your pants or something. Then you get into junior high and you go into the locker room, and everybody says, "Well, if you shake it more than 3 times, you're a homo." Have you heard?
I've never heard that.
I haven't heard that one.
I heard if you shake it more than 3 times, you're playing with it.
I've heard both.
Well, you're playing with it too, yeah. So you shake it more than 3 times, you're playing with it. You shake it 4 times, you're a homo. That's kind of the attitude that I grew up with in the locker room. Mm-hmm. And of course, the most effeminate boy in the locker room is made fun of and bullied by the masculine boys, especially the super hyper masculine guys. And so you're getting these messages, and you're getting them all throughout your development as an adolescent, that boys' bodies are something to be ashamed of, that natural inclinations about masturbation and having sex and playing with yourself and liking to look at men's bodies is wrong. And there's an enforcement mechanism that comes out, and that's I call them the hyper-masculine bullies, and they occur in every locker room. And they're always looking around to look at who's the most sissified guy that they can bully and make fun of. Well, what's going on there isn't just between the bully and the bullied person. Everybody is watching. Yep. Just like I was watching my grandmother slap my little brother's hand, I'm watching a bully slap, figuratively and maybe even literally, a boy that doesn't meet his standards of masculinity. Well, no boy in that locker room wants to get the attention of that bully. So they all start acting like him. Yep. They start modeling that. That's male shame. I am ashamed to look any different than fully masculine in front of my peers. Now, when you get to be old enough and you start dating and you go into the dating world with that attitude, you think you have certain views of women and women's bodies, because in that locker room, they were talking about slut this and this girl's a slut and you can take advantage. And, you know, they have all sorts of language in the locker room about girls that they're talking about. And you've heard this language, so that teaches you. It's not even in school. It's not even in your parents. It's the locker room where you're learning how to treat women badly.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask a question, and I'm asking both you, Darrel, and everyone in the room. I went to an all-boys high school. Did anyone else have a same-sex school experience? Well, okay, like, did you go to a school where everyone was the same gender?
No, but we were all the same gender in the locker room.
Well, it's very different, though. Did you? How about you, Darrel?
No, I was in a co-ed.
I gotta.
High school.
Okay, I went to a Catholic high school, and it was all boys, and it was gross. It was super gross, not just around the male shame, but also around, because I guess when you have 1,000 boys and there are no women around at all, there's
runs rampant.
Yeah,
I can imagine.
Yeah, and so some of the things that I mean, and I think that may actually be the root of my hardcore feminism is just the messages that I was exposed to and just appalled by through high school.
Yeah, well, I think it probably is worse than an all-male school, but it's bad everywhere. It's throughout our culture.
It is, absolutely. I've seen it. You know, I think we've all seen it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the challenge I have to the audience reading this article, and it's available online, but of course it'd be nice if you'd go buy it. It's at bookstores and Barnes & Noble. But the challenge is how many of these really deep ideas about our bodies, about women's bodies, about men and women's relationships are embedded in us, and we're not even aware of it. Mm-hmm. I see, for example, male shame around homophobia. I would like to turn this whole idea of homophobia on its head. Homophobia is men being ashamed of men. That's what homophobia really is. And when men berate and come out and strike out and bully homosexual men, they're expressing their own shame. Because homosexuality is a direct challenge to the gender binary, till the notion that a man must be a man, a woman must be a woman, and there's no in between, and no other alternatives. It's not like there's in between. There's no alternatives either. So that's where I see a lot of this stuff coming out in our culture. The homophobia, especially, and it comes largely, I keep saying culture, but really it comes right from religion. That's where we learned it. That's where it comes in the Bible.
Yeah. You know, when we talked to you last year about Sex and God, your book, we talked a lot about how women seem to be an extra particular target of a lot of, the largest, especially the Abrahamic religions for this kind of thing. And from your article, I kind of got the impression that on the male shame side of things, that gay men and transgender individuals really shouldered the lion's share of the worst kind of shame. Is that a fair assessment?
I absolutely agree with you on that. I'm doing an interview in 2 weeks. It'll come out on my own podcast, the Secular Sexuality podcast, with Sandra, a leader in the transgender community, and she talks about some horrible stories. I mean, a transgender woman or man, it doesn't matter, walking down the street is subject to incredible dangers and abuses in many cities right here in the United States, to say nothing of Egypt, or somewhere else like that. No, I think, and that understanding male shame explains why men would be so violent, because it is a challenge to their notions about what sexuality is. That you can only be a male, you can only be a female, and if you can be anything else, then that says something about me, and that's the problem. That's the male shame being expressed.
Well, I have a question. There were a couple things that seemed to be that just popped out, but one of them is there. Am I wrong in thinking there seems to be this severe need to biologically categorize people, and it seems like this male shaming comes from this almost repulsive need to say that's a man, that's a woman, that's definitely a man, that's definitely a woman.
I think that is there, though. I think the question is that a cultural thing or is that a human thing?
Is there a difference?
Yeah.
I think it would be hard. It would be hard to separate it, but you know, there's all sorts of variations of sexuality among mammals, especially among primates. If you look at the bonobo apes, for example, there's a hell of a lot of homosexuality going there, a whole lot of bisexuality. There might be lots of transgender bonobos. We'd never know it, of course. So, in nature, that gender binary isn't necessarily enforced by even their own culture. And I think our culture really enforces the gender binary. There are cultures that don't enforce it very strictly.
So it is a culture thing more so than a species thing, it seems like.
Oh, I absolutely think so. Right.
And
now, I'm not saying there's not some proclivity within our species, but generally speaking, I think it's cultural.
Sure, and that culture is. Are we saying that culture is often and more often than not derived from the religion of that culture?
Yeah, because if you look at some really more sex-positive cultures that are not, and the important thing, have never been influenced or were not influenced before we studied them by Christianity or Islam. Christianity, Islam, Hinduism are very patriarchal and gender binary kinds of cultures, religions that then impose that on the culture. Everywhere they go, they impose that gender binary notion. Well, but there are South Pacific tribes or groups of people in the South Pacific that are much more fluid about their sexuality. There was Native American tribes that were much more fluid about their sexuality. So we know culture can be very fluid in its sexual, it doesn't enforce the gender binary nearly as strongly. Some cultures don't, yeah. Is that what you're asking?
It was just kind of an open question. I just wanted to kind of explore the topic a bit.
I will go back to, was it Megan that asked the question?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Did I answer your question, Megan?
I think so. I mean, I was also curious because behavioral science wants to give sometimes a broad sweeping answer to all human behavior and sometimes a cultural answer. And this one was a tough one because all the readings seem to imply that need to categorize people, X, Y, X, X. And the shamings, it just seemed like, well, it was birthed from this fear of not being able to categorize, and the fear coming from what behavioral science would say is uncertainty. I'm not certain who you are, so I'm not certain who I am in relation to you. And the scientists say people don't like uncertainty. We'd rather be lied to and have a feeling of certainty than be told the truth and be uncertain. And this idea of personal identity based on, as you were writing, men sizing themselves up compared to women and other men.
Yeah.
That's where I was going with it. That's behavioral science, at least, was bringing that in.
I think you've got a good point there, and I don't think male shame explains it all by a long shot. It does play a lot. I think it explains a lot, but not all of it. I think what you're talking about is really relevant to this kind of a discussion. Yeah, we as humans like certainty in our environment. In those more liberal, or not, I shouldn't use the word liberal, it's really meaningless. I mean, in those cultures where sexuality is more fluid, if you have alternative ways of identifying friend or foe, member, in-group, out-group, then it's less relevant. And you can look at the bonobos. Bonobos know who their tribe's members are. It's irrelevant what gender they are, because especially in the bonobos, the female rules the roost. So somehow the bonobos know the difference between my group and the group across the river over there. And I'm sure lots of species, not just us, have that same ability to sense about who's one of us and who's not one of us. And that's an important skill, especially if violence is a possible outcome of a contact.
Sure. And I wonder how much of that is just, human beings being a pattern recognition machine and just saying, I want to categorize this, super efficiently, and how much of that is things like religious laws and rules, which really discount the 3%, the 1% of the population, the 0.7% of the population that might be transgender, and just disregard that entirely in favor of what is going to get them the most traction, what's going to help them reproduce, what's going to help them sustain that religious idea, I guess.
Well, as I explore in depth in my book, The God Virus, reproduction is really a minor part of sexuality among humans. Reproduction is, I mean, you have 10,000 sex acts for every one baby born, maybe.
Right,
maybe,
right.
maybe
Yeah, I do. It's not true.
Well, if you count masturbation, it might be.
Oh, no, it's true. It's true.
I like it.
So I kind of discount the whole idea of reproduction, because at least within humans, sexuality is used as a bonding mechanism to bring people together and keep them together. It's really keeps the tribe together. Sex keeps the tribe together, keeps the couple together to raise children and that sort of thing.
Bondage can keep things together too.
Yeah, right. And you can see in the bonobos the same thing is going on. Sex is the way the entire group identifies, maintains, and deals with conflict and that sort of stuff. I really think we have a lot to learn from the bonobos. The chimps have been studied much more than the bonobos, but when you really look at what the bonobos are, they have a model of sexuality and relationships that says something that looks a lot like some aspects of human behavior. Not that we're bonobos or they're human, but we've sure got some things that we could copy or at least look at and consider. Maybe it's something that could be developed in humans and has been developed. I suspect that before Christianity came along, before Hinduism, before Islam came along, there were many human groups that if they were in an environment that was reasonably safe from violence outside or predators, that sexuality became much more fluid.
Well,
I think when you're under threat of constant attack from a neighboring tribe or a predator, it's probably more important to identify who the strongest people in the group are, who can shoot the arrow the best, that sort of thing. And that leads to a gender binary that's pretty strong, I'm thinking.
Well, I don't know that necessarily men are going to be able to do that universally better than women. So, being that, shoot the arrow the fastest or the straightest.
Well, that's why you got the Sarmatian women and their reputation. At one point in time, before the Greeks rose up, the Sarmatians were supposed to have killed a man in battle before they could be a full woman.
Right, yeah.
Now, we don't know if that's true or a myth, but it seems like at least someplace it was happening, because they found graves with that kind of stuff going on in it. Yeah.
One of the things that really struck me about your American Atheist article was, you noted two main motivations that religious families have in utilizing and perpetuating shame. And the first one was, family shame. And what really struck me was that it almost seemed like shame, because I know that humans have this repulsion to disease and they're worried about that. But I almost felt like the way you were talking about shame is that it's its own kind of contagion. Does that make sense?
It is.
Okay.
It absolutely is. I wrote a couple chapters in Sex and God about that. See, shame is seen as an infection that needs to be eradicated in the community. And so you hear people actually talking about, she shamed the family or he shamed the community. You almost cannot give forgiveness for shame. Shame is almost unforgivable sin. And as a result, you see honor killings among Islamic families. Well, to be frank, we saw honor killings among Christian families too, not that many hundreds of years ago. Right. It's not a new thing to have honor killings. I mean, that's what the whole Scarlet Letter was about. Not honor killing, but the ostracism of a woman for having violated the sexual norms of in that particular novel. So no, I believe shame is seen as a disease that could infect the community. A girl who has sex before marriage is shaming the family because you don't want the other girls to catch that disease. And so they sell her in Syria. We've seen examples in Iraq, rather, people selling their daughters into prostitution and slavery because they shame the family, or stoning her to death.
Yeah.
That was the same thing you would do to extricate someone who is diseased. Got to get rid of them from your community.
Sure. It stuns me that something like that could be so powerful. I mean, I've seen videos of fathers literally casting the first stone to kill their daughters. And I can't imagine doing that myself. And I despite the fact that I've grown up in a culture that promotes that kind of thing, wow, is that powerful?
Well, it is powerful, and it's powerful right in your own neighborhood. I'll guarantee you, you have a Jehovah's Witness, you got a Seventh-day Adventist, you got a Mormon, you've got any cult-like culture, religion, someone living in your neighborhood, they are treating their daughters and sons in that manner. They're teaching sons to control their women, and they're teaching their women to be submissive to their men, whether it's the father or the brother or the son, the husband later on. And if you don't obey, you are cast out. And you may not be stoned, but you're certainly cast out.
You're ostracized from your community. Yeah, absolutely.
Family. Now, why are they doing that? I think this is a key. It's you can go online and see my talk on male shame. I go through this in some detail. Imagine you were raised in a Jehovah's Witness family, and you are the father of that family. And your job, God has told you, your job is to protect, teach, and get all your children and your wife into heaven. Well, if one of your children strays and they contaminate one of your other children, before you know it, you have really screwed up. Yeah. And you have not fulfilled your job. And now your children are going to be in hell because you didn't do your job.
So it's a method of control.
That is a really scary proposition, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you believe this shit, it's a really scary proposition.
Right.
For sure. And I mean, you look at parents who will kill their children so that to ensure their place in heaven. It's a logical result of that belief system. I mean, that's logical.
It's actually very logical. You're right. It also gives you a license to abuse your children. It's a license to keep them out of school and homeschool them with inferior education. It's a license to a lot of things that normally we would call child abuse, but it's not if it's in the name of religion to save your soul from hell.
That's crazy. So in the article, you also wrote that, quote, in a patriarchal society, a man is only a man in relation to his status with women, which I imagine is about the control and all of that. And I wonder if that's not at the core of some of the issues we have with individuals like Elliot Roger in California, who mass murderer who was trying to punish women for not paying attention to him.
I vaguely remember that.
Yeah.
He posted the video online, basically doing this soliloquy about,
that's a symptom of that. I mean, obviously the guy was fruit bat crackers
nuts.
Right. But I mean, his problem stemmed out of this sense of shame about his relationship to women and his identity as a man in relation to that, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, I think it plays the narrative quite well. Although I think we should be careful about what is just psychopathology. Mm-hmm. This man may have done what he did without the help of religion. So we don't want to blame religion for everything. I would like to just stay with regular normal people, because normal people beat their children in the name of Jesus. Normal people ostracize and kick their children out of the home because they are homosexual, and that goes against their Jesus's teachings. So you don't have to be psychopathological to act very badly to your children and abuse them.
Not when your belief structure and your community tells you that that's what you're supposed to do. Right.
So you're talking about like a formulaic abuse.
Basically.
Yeah. So male shame, according to your article, it seems to be tied directly to not being feminine. To, don't throw like a girl, don't cry like a girl, that sort of thing. Yeah. But female shame seems to not be tied with being male so much, and I'm asking you. But it also seems to be tied into being female. Don't be a slut, don't show your shoulders, don't be so frigid, whatever it is. Am I reading that right?
Yeah, I think generally speaking, but I don't know how you separate these two. Once you start looking at how they interact with each other, women are taught that their bodies are sacred, that they have to save them for the man, that the only way they're valued in any way, shape, or form is in relation to a superior man.
Exactly. That's it. Women are inferior, and their bodies are to be controlled by a man, not them.
Right. And then on the other side, men are being taught, you have to control women. You are superior to women. you're not just stronger, but because you're stronger, you have a right to dominate them physically, among other things. So there's the sexual and physical abuse that can come from that. And men who don't believe that, who don't buy into that. For example, a man who's not too bright, but he has a daughter who's a genius, is probably going to be pretty pissed off that she sasses him back, you know? A man who's maybe quite bright but not earning as much money as his wife, who has a better job, is probably going to be shamed by that. I had now this is the real interesting thing. I have lifelong atheists almost tell me I still carry male shame around. I had a lifelong atheist. If I said his name on air, you would immediately know who I'm talking about. You probably have even met this person. He was unemployed for a while and shared with me, I feel tremendous shame because my wife is out working and I'm not. He said, and these were his own words, I would have rather had my wife lose her job than me, so I could avoid this male shame. This is an atheist, somebody who's practically a lifelong atheist.
Absolutely.
That's pretty powerful.
I gotta say, you know, I have friends who are stay-at-home dads, and I have to admit that when I have a reaction to that, I mean, it's not fair, and I push it aside very rapidly, but I do have that's not what you're supposed to do reaction to it.
I'm in the exact same camp, and it's because it's been drilled into us by our culture.
Yeah,
right. Well, I think the fact that you're challenging it, and you do have to challenge it every time so that it slowly but surely moves away. I think we've all got those. I find them in myself all the time. I just see somebody walking down the street, and I get a negative reaction based upon something, you know, some part that I perceive, and I realize that's stupid, that's dumb. We have to learn as atheists and secularists to start disputing that. And the reason I wrote the article is because I want us to look inside ourselves. I don't think just because you're an atheist, I don't think you have escaped religious indoctrination. Like I just told you, a man said he's still got religious shame about not being the breadwinner. That's some pretty deep indoctrination that he hasn't got.
No, absolutely. I mean, one of my family members he's a diehard atheist. Not that he's a movement atheist, but he's always, you know, for as long as I've ever known, been an atheist. And he doesn't realize often that the way he's treating his kids is based in religious shaming.
Yeah, right. So I think it's really important for us to start challenging some of these notions in ourselves, and that's why I wrote the article in the first place.
So I found that when you're discussing race with white people or gender with men, that frequently the reaction you get is defensive and as if they feel that you want them to feel ashamed, really, of the patriarchal system we have, the racial disparities we have. Do you ever get that reaction, and how do you respond to that?
Oh, absolutely, I do. In fact, I am working with our Free Thinkers of Color here in Kansas City, where I live, on doing a presentation and panel discussion on that very issue.
Nice.
I think there's that's a whole other topic. Maybe we can come back and talk about that someday. You know, my short answer is I go back to a book called Thinking Fast and Slow by Kahneman. If you haven't read it, it's an amazing read. Very difficult read because it's so challenging to your basic assumptions about how you
It's like
think.
system 1, system 2.
But we have two modes. We have two modes of thinking: fast and slow. And the fast is what happens when I immediately see somebody that's different than me and have a negative reaction.
Right.
Yep.
The slow thinking is, okay, I've got to dispute that. I got to change that thinking, and that takes a lot more energy. Most of us are very well trained at the fast thinking. We're not very well trained at the slow thinking part of it. That says, okay, wait, that's a human being. No matter what gender they are, no matter what color they are, that's just a human being I'm looking at.
Right.
That's hard. That's hard for us to do. And I'm in the business. I think you guys are too. I'm in the business of helping us, and in the process, probably helping myself. There's some selfishness here. And to get rid of these filters that I was raised with, that you were raised with, that this culture forces on us, so we can start relating more closely and humanely with other human beings, no matter what.
Yeah.
And that's a challenge. I think it's a challenge for everyone, whether your skin color is different or not.
Well, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
It's pretty much everybody agrees that the last thing to change are social norms and social mentality. And the best way I've heard over and over again is you start with yourself, then you branch out to the nearest, and then hopefully this change in mentality takes hold. But that the best technique in changing social norms is just having the next generation die out.
That's all too true, yes.
So could we help that along by having Jay kill some people?
I'm in. I will bear that cross.
We have a question from our chat room. Gilman wants to know what you think of, and you may not know what this is because I don't. What do you think of The World Before Yesterday by Jared Diamond? Does that mean anything to you?
Yeah, I've actually, I have not read his book, The World Before Yesterday. I have read his book, Collapse, and his other book, I'm drawing the blank right now. Jared Diamond is an amazing guy, an amazing biologist, an amazing writer. I haven't read his book, but I'm guessing it's pretty darn good. I recommend recommend Collapse all the time.
What is that about?
Well, Collapse is...
It's Gilman. Think about it.
Is it survivalism stuff? Yeah.
Not at all. Not at all. He's an ornithologist who studied birds, of course, in Indonesia. But that's not the focus of the book. The focus of the book is on why civilizations collapse. And what are the roots of those collapses? And what might be the roots of our own civilization's collapse? And he goes back and he looks at things like Easter Island. Why did that civilization collapse? Why did the Mayas collapse? Why did the Incas collapse? Why did the Romans collapse? You know, there was every one of these giant cultures collapsed at one point in time. And he traces the roots to that back. And a big part of the roots are environmental degradation. And humans just destroyed their local environment. And that led to the collapse of the civilization. Gotcha. I don't know what that has to do with male shame, though.
I have no idea either. But that's our chat room for you.
It very well may be related.
I do love Jared Diamond. I haven't read anything of Jared Diamond yet. I wouldn't recommend. He's
okay.
Just that good.
Another question out of our chat room. They wanted to know, is chivalry dead and should it be?
You know, I think respect is what we should be teaching children. And chivalry is a cultural notion about how the genders relate to each other. I don't think it's got a lot of usefulness unless it's a way of showing respect for the other person. It can be very patronizing. It can be very patriarchal. So I'm cautious about it. Now, I was raised in a time where the man opens the door for the woman. I have no trouble with that. The women I date and the women I'm involved with seem to appreciate me opening the doors, but sometimes they open the damn door themselves, and they don't seem to mind that either.
And when sometimes they open the door for me, and I don't mind it either.
Exactly, right. But it's a way that we show each other courtesy and respect. And there's some things, they cook a meal for me because they know I'm a terrible cook and I don't like cooking and I'm probably not going to cook. I'll order pizza. So if there's some what appears to be gender roles going on there, I don't have any problem with it because we're respecting each other. We're serving each other in positive ways. And we're very aware of what we're doing. We talk out loud. My lovers and I, we talk out loud about this shit because none of us want to go back to where we were in the 1950s and 60s in our
what, the
relationship.
good old days?
So chivalry, I'm not sure chivalry ever existed because think about it. Chivalry existed oftentimes as a class kind of a thing.
It did, yeah.
Upper classes and middle classes used it, but the lower classes did not deserve it. White men did not open doors for slave women or for housekeeping women in the 1930s. It just didn't happen. So chivalry was more class-based, I think, and it was very patriarchal. I'd like to get rid of that kind of stuff. But I did teach my son, I did teach my daughter how to respect people.
Yeah, and I think that's
show respect.
That's more sensible to me, is that I have a visceral dislike for gender-specific rules when, just be courteous to everyone. And I think that's a much better system, at least for me.
Yeah, right.
So I wanted to mention one thing just because I don't know whether you were familiar with some of the comments that Cardinal Raymond Burke of the illustrious Catholic Church made last week. We talked about it on our show.
Oh, the Red Hat Society guy.
Yeah, the Red Hat Society guy, yeah. But it when I was reading your article over the past week, this just made so much sense to me because what he was talking about now that he's been demoted by the Pope and he's, on his shit list, he is speaking his mind. And one of the things he said is he thinks that the church is in decline because it's been feminized. That they're letting girls do things like be altar servers, and now boys don't want to do that because girls, and it's such an alien concept to me, but it seems to line up exactly with what you're saying is the problem, which is these patriarchal men trying to make this ridiculous division between the male and the female, the masculine and the feminine.
Well, as with any religion on this planet that was patriarchal, it's now being challenged by feminism and by the very fact that education and the internet are out there. I don't think the Catholic Church is being challenged by Islam, and I don't think Islam is being challenged by the Catholic Church or Hinduism. I think they're all being challenged by the internet. We can get online, and somebody in Italy who thinks they're a great Catholic can see that women don't have to dress a certain way and don't have to behave a certain way. I was in Ireland a couple of years ago on book tour, and Ireland can't recruit enough priests to serve its own churches anymore. Ireland used to be a net exporter of priests. Everybody, the Father Flanagan or whatever from Ireland. Well, they're importing priests from Nigeria now. In Ireland.
What?
Yes. Isn't that crazy?
Wow.
They used to have 3 priests for every 2 parishes. Now they have 1 priest for every 3 parishes.
And they're all trying to get you to send them money orders and whatever.
They just don't have enough time to molest all of those little boys.
Princes, not priests.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
But let me back up because your bishop's or cardinal or whatever his face was, his comment is very patriarchal. It's very Catholic. It's very much down the line. Benedict probably agrees with him, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Francis might not. Although I think Francis is a jerk, too. Don't get me wrong.
Amen.
He's just as much a jerk. He just has a sweet face, and people trust him.
And a good PR department.
Yeah.
Yeah, PR department's better. Just this week, or a couple days ago, this jerk in New York wrote this blog post about 10 types of women a man should never marry.
Oh, I saw that.
Did you see that?
Oh my God.
Yeah,
It was like a list of my favorite women.
I wrote a nice long. I defended him. I defended this fundamentalist preacher in New York City because everything he said was right per the Bible.
Right.
And you have all these Christians arguing and saying, no, that's not right. I say, well, have you even read your own Bible?
Of course they haven't.
They would be atheists if they did.
Exactly.
So I get on I write this nice, long, really thought out, well thought out post and post it up. And the can I say 4-letter words on here?
Yes.
Okay, so this fucking thing went viral. And before you know it, I got Seth Andrews contacting me saying, damn, Darrel, can I use that? So I said, well, go for it. So he made a video, and it just went up today that highlights my blog post responding to this guy. Because here's the deal. That Catholic bishop or cardinal is simply reading his Bible and doing what his Jesus and his Paul said you should do. And that's what this minister in New York's is doing. He read the Bible, and he said women should never lead a man. Okay, that's pretty clear in the Bible. How do you read your Bible and not get that? So I took the Christians there were hundreds of Christians getting on there arguing with him. You're not a true Christian, the true Scotsman thing.
Right.
So I get on there and I defend him. Well, the funny thing was he didn't delete any of the Christians' comments, but he deleted mine.
Nice.
Of course.
And I was defending him. I was saying, you are right. You read your Bible correctly. It's not hard to see this stuff. But all the liberal Christians want, they want to have their cake and eat it too. They want to be a Christian and still treat women well.
They want to be blind. Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah.
I kind of want to throw in some atheists on this pile because I've had conversations with atheists in this last week where they want to give the benefit of the doubt to, they want to do the Christian apologist thing and say, yeah, sure, it says that, but I think we have to get beyond that. I think you have to say, this is what it says, and if you have crappy reasons for not going along with what it says, you have crappy reasons.
Yeah, right.
It says what it says.
Yeah, it does. It does. I really like challenging religions of all kinds using their own text because they don't read their own text,
right?
in most cases,
and they hate it when you read it to them.
Yeah, and I have never read a single verse in the Bible to a Christian that refuted something they said that they didn't say. Well, you're reading it out of context.
Yep.
Ooh, that's my favorite.
Every time it's out of
Or
context.
no, that's the
Like,
wrong
get out of jail.
version.
Right.
Yeah, right.
Our chat room is requesting more F-bombs from you, so I I think the one went over well, so just keep those coming. I don't know.
I've already ruined the whole F-bomb thing for this show. Like 10 seconds in, get after it, buddy.
Right. So are there ways, even little ways that we or our listeners can push back against male shame and move us forward? Are there things that you advise?
Yeah. I think first thing is make sure if you're a man, you're checking your assumptions about women at the door. I see slut shaming coming from atheist men. That's bullshit. There's no reason for any atheist man to say anything sexual to an atheist woman or any woman. It matters not. I don't care if they're religious or not. Women have a right to be who they are, just like men have a right to be who they are. And I unfortunately see this, especially online. Atheist men they get in an argument with somebody online, and if that person happens to be female, they rapidly get into sexist and gender.
Oh, of course.
And it's ridiculous. Why should atheists do that?
I like sluts. What's wrong with stop shaming them?
One of my lovers says, well, you say slut like it's a bad thing.
Right. Exactly. I don't know, because I think Susan has dealt with that a lot over the last year that she's been a part of our show.
Oh, being a slut?
Well, she's dealt with that for a long time. But
High five, slut.
But we have people who come in and they latch onto her and everything they're saying is about what she looks like and things like that. So needless to say, I don't have to deal with that problem.
Exactly. You don't have to deal with it.
I'm sorry, I'm just cuter than you, okay?
You're not very sorry.
Sorry, not sorry.
But I don't think it has to do with the fact that I'm not cute, although I'm not. But
I don't know. I think you're kind of cute, baby. sorry.
Post
We
up.
digress.
I
We
don't.
digress.
I think as you get into relationships, speaking from a male perspective, if you get into a relationship with a woman, or it doesn't even, you could get into a gay relationship and still have male shame.
Mm-hmm.
I know a male homosexual couple that actually are now married, but he's still very Catholic, and he's very ashamed of himself being in this role. But it comes out very subtly at times in the way he talks about himself and about the way he talks about their partnership. Well, I wish I could get him to challenge this, but if he challenged it, he'd have to drop his Catholicism. It's that simple.
Yep.
It's that deeply embedded in it. Men need to look inside themselves and say, what are my assumptions about women? And how does that impact my interaction with women? For example, male shame about impotence. The more you think and feel ashamed about your ability to, quote, perform for a woman, the less you're probably going to perform for yourself or anybody else. But I see that in men. I see men say, I have to be a man for her. Well, no, you really don't have to be a man. You have to be a good partner. You have to be somebody who cares and supports one another. It doesn't really matter what your gender is, because you can have this same kind of shame in any other kind of relationship, sexual relationship, whether it's hetero or homosexual or whatever. So I want men to look inside and say, your assumptions about women impact you. It's actually a benefit for men to get rid of this shit because women can sense it. A woman knows when a man has misogynistic ideas because they come out in subtle ways.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we can smell it.
Yeah.
And the way it oftentimes comes out is in sarcastic comments or black humor.
I'm just joking. Yeah.
Yeah, can't you just take a joke?
Right. Yeah.
Shit like that.
Yeah.
When a man uses a subtle sexist remark and says, "Can't you take a joke?" They're being a sexist asshole themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But I shouldn't label. I don't want to label a man an asshole. That's wrong on my part. I'm sorry.
You can label me an asshole.
We'll do it. We'll do it.
What I want to say is he is letting his male shame show. That's what I want to say. And I think this is an important thing, and that's why I want to back up and apologize for using that word. I think it's wrong to label men assholes or women sluts or anybody else. I think it's right to say he is letting his male shame show or he hasn't dealt with his male shame. That's the productive way to think about it. People get defensive when you say they're an asshole.
Yeah.
They don't. But if you suggest, or if he can find a way to look inside himself, well, I wonder how that joke betrays or gives away my feelings about my masculinity in relation to women or women's role in relation to me or men. Those are questions to ask and talk about.
And it really, robs you of that feel good, you're an asshole. And, it's a trade-off for something more productive conversation. But, that's a tough trade-off sometimes.
It is a tough trade-off, yeah.
Well, I have a question about the male shaming, addressing it, men to men. Because if I remember correctly, reading in your article, you were talking about female shaming, or as recently referred to, slut shaming, being almost like an offshoot of a male shaming norm that was already being promoted. Whether that's true or not, how much do you think this female slut shaming would be impacted if the male shaming norm was addressed more strongly rather than just the slut shaming?
The audio was really bad. I couldn't hardly
was
understand
I too far
what you were
away?
saying. Yeah.
It's coming through here.
It's coming through there, not that mic.
Yeah. Is there a way you can get closer to a microphone or something? I almost caught
I'm
it all
on the
of it.
mic.
No, it's coming through the laptop and not in the mic.
Crap. Can you ask him?
That was a long question.
That was a long question.
All right.
Go for it again.
Okay, so I was wondering, we were talking about female shaming and slut shaming, and in the article it seemed like you mentioned it as an offshoot of male shaming, and I was just curious, how much do you think the slut shaming would be impacted positively if rather than just addressing slut shaming and female shaming, we addressed male shaming?
Oh, I think the vast majority of slut shaming comes from male shame. So if you deal with male shame, if you challenge it, and I think men should be challenging each other.
Yes.
Just like if I hear somebody making a racist comment, I will challenge that. If I hear him making a sexist comment, I will challenge it. If I hear him making a comment that seems to come from male shame, I think we should be challenging each other as much as possible.
And especially if you're a person of privilege. You and I are both white men, and we have a whole lot of privilege. And so we have a lot more power when we challenge people. So I think we have a duty, actually, to do that.
But, Megan, I think you're absolutely right. It's slut shaming is directly proportional to male shame. And if we challenge the male shame, I think we'll see a dramatic reduction, if not elimination, of slut shaming. It has the reason men shame women is because they feel inadequate themselves.
Yes.
That their own masculinity is feeling somehow challenged. We need to redefine what it means to be a man in this culture, and redefine what it means to be a woman in this culture, and what it means to be a human being, whether you're a woman or a man. You may be gay, you may be transgender, I don't care. We need to define these things in a way that's inclusive, not exclusive. And I think male shaming tends to exclude. When you shame a female, you're saying you are less than me. It's a power dynamic. And that betrays a belief that males are superior to females.
Now, this is a great launching off point because since the last time we spoke to you, you have launched your own podcast, Secular Sexuality, and I feel like just listening to what you just said, that your podcast kind of fits that bill in terms of starting to create a different kind of way to be male and female. Can you talk about, does that sound fair to you, and how did the podcast come about?
Yeah, it sounds very fair to me. I've had several people twist my arm and say, Sex and God is a great book. We loved it. We want to know more. We want to hear more. We want to hear you talk to people about this. And I just was kind of reluctant. I've seen people like yourselves do podcasts. I know how much work it is. You guys, and I admire you for what you do. So I was a little reluctant, but then I decided, okay, I'm going to jump in and do a little 5 or 10 minute one for a small podcast, and I tried it and I liked it. So
you got addicted. That's what happens.
Yeah, right.
That's how it happens.
But more importantly, I got feedback from the audience that said, wow, these are things we'd never thought about. We've never heard anybody talk about sex this way. There are a lot of sexual podcasts. There's a lot of polyamory podcasts. There's a lot of sex positive podcasts. There's a lot of podcasts out there. But my observation is, and I've listened to many sexual related podcasts, is that most podcasts are scared shitless to address religion as a root cause of sexual problems. Now, as a psychologist, when somebody comes into my office, 80% of the problems I'm going to deal with come from some kind of religious training, probably. And if they're sexual problems, at least that many or far more. So I just 2 weeks ago announced a kind of a contest on my podcast. I say, send me a 1,500-word essay on how religion impacted your sex lives, and I'll read them, or I'll have you read them on the. Wow, I'm overwhelmed with stories already. It's amazing. Right. Yeah, people want to tell their stories, but more importantly, religion really does impact people's ability to enjoy sex, and to become the best they can be as a sexual being, whether that being is male, transgender, gay, or female. I don't care who you are. I want you to be the best human being you are and develop your own identity. I think humans have a right to create their own identity on this planet, independent of the cultural expectations. And that's kind of a radical idea, but I think we're gaining some acceptance. The very fact that gay marriage has taken off in the United States is helping. People are now identifying marriage as not between a man and a woman, but between two loving human beings. That's a new identity. And that's what my podcast is about. I want if you listen to just a few episodes, I'm challenging shit every time I turn around. And there's so much to do. I thought, I might got 4 or 5 episodes. I'm not sure I have enough to talk about. Well, that was 20 episodes ago. And we've mapped out the next 20 already. So wow. I'm just amazed at how much there is to talk about on this.
There really is, and I'm guilty of not having tuned into your podcast nearly enough. I've heard a couple of them, but it is really good, and I do appreciate that you take that little niche and you attack it.
Yeah. I personally like it because it's smart, and so it exercises your brain, but you also get to think about sex a lot. And so, I'm not getting paid for it the way you are, but it's practically a second career. So,
aside from our podcast, have you considered, collaborating with any other podcasts out there? Because I can think of a couple that maybe we can talk about later after the show that I think you'd fit really well into.
I don't know.
Okay, we'll talk about that later then, because I don't want to.
You can email them.
Yeah.
Yeah, happy to cooperate with people or whatever.
Corroborate.
Collaborate.
Right. So,
if you do listen. If there's one podcast you could listen to, I would say go to listen to number 12.
Yes.
Two ex-Muslim women.
Yes.
God, that was a tearjerker. Wow, that one. Both ways. It just tore me up emotionally, but it also was very uplifting. 2 incredibly brave women who born and raised right here in the United States and had to run away from their families for fear of being shipped off to Yemen, married to somebody they didn't want to marry, and be forced to come back to the United States so that somebody could become a citizen from Yemen. I mean, this shit is happening all the time, and the immigration service knows doesn't enforce anything. They told me one story of their 14-year-old cousin, 14 years old, was forcibly brought back to the United States, but papers were forged to show she was 18.
Wow.
That's child abuse. I mean, there was so much they told me on that podcast.
Yeah,
I'm trying to interview about every other week. I'm trying to interview real human beings about how religion impacted their sex lives, and it's so much fun to interview people.
It's so much fun to listen to. I got to tell you, because like I enjoy all of your episodes, but the interviews especially. I mean, so two things. One is that it's such a great insight into other people's lives and existences, and so if you're a huge, voyeur, if you've ever wanted to sit inside of like a sex therapist lounge and just listen to what people are saying, A, it'll appeal to you on that level, but B, it's just people who are so far outside of my own experience, and hearing their stories is really powerful. Whether it was the two Muslim women who were super secret about even their names, or the other one I really liked was the gentleman, the African American you spoke to. I guess he called himself Black.
Right.
And he was gay, and it's just like that's so far outside of my experience that it was super interesting. So.
Yeah, he was a gay atheist Air Force retiree. That's
yeah, boy.
Yeah, there aren't too many of those. I'm not thinking.
That's a pretty narrow demographic. I agree.
There's more than we know, but he was a great guy, very articulate, really understood where he'd come from, and very deeply Southern Baptist until he became an atheist.
And even just like listening to them discover things about themselves while they're talking to you is just it's compelling content.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. So I really appreciate you letting me talk a little bit about that on your show as well.
Oh, absolutely. We try to push as many good podcasts as we can. So
part of this is promoting all of your stuff. So absolutely, if you've got something to promote, do it.
Are you working on any books? Anything coming?
Well, it's a good question. Everybody asks me, what's my next book? And I tell them, well, I'm doing a podcast.
It takes the place.
It's an ongoing book.
It is actually an ongoing book. And, there's almost nothing in the podcast that I don't talk about, at least in some degree, in the podcast. So the book, there's lots of content in the book, and I repeat some of it in the podcast, not very much. But in the book, I only spend about a paragraph or two on the concept of male shame. So as a result of thinking about this after the Sex and God came out, I'm thinking, I've got a lot more to say about male shame. And that's the roots of this article that came out last month in American Atheist Magazine. I think you can only put so much in a book. And how do you? I did interview, and you saw in the book, both of my books, I have interview material, both of my books. But you really don't get the sound of their voice and the emotion, and you don't get the whole story because I can only put a few paragraphs in. So the podcast is really, I almost see it as a supplement to my two books, Sex and God and the God Virus. And you read those two books and then you listen to the podcast, it all starts to come together. You can see how these concepts work. For example, the guilt cycle. I talk about the guilt cycle in both books.
Yeah.
Well, you listen to even one of these interviews, you hear the guilt cycle everywhere. And yet most people have never even heard of the concept of the guilt cycle.
Yeah, that's the thing that I keep getting over and over from your podcast, from this article, from your book. I haven't read The God Virus yet. We should do that later on this year. If you would come back and talk about that, we should.
I'd love to talk about The God Virus.
Excellent. So we'll do that. We'll do that later on in the year. But it does start to be a puzzle that makes so much sense once you're looking at it in that way.
Yeah, right. You see the red Volkswagens everywhere.
Right, exactly, exactly. So you are coming down to Texas this month, are you not?
Yeah, I'll be speaking at ACT in San Antonio on Saturday, what is it?
31st.
31st, thank you. And then I'm going to run over, fly into San Antonio, drive a car over to Houston and speak at Oasis in Houston.
And then you're going to drive to Corpus and drink with us.
No, he's going to come to Austin and drink with me.
I drive over to Austin and I'm on the Atheist Experience.
I'm totally going to be at that one, by the way. I'm totally going to go to that recording.
Good,
So
good.
I'm gonna go to the fact thing. I might stay over for the atheist experience. I'm not sure about that, but
You
I'll go
can't
with the
stay on
fact
our
thing. Susan will. What was it? Butt to nut.
Butt to nut. No, people cannot stay on our couch. I'm sorry.
Okay, so I'm gonna go with the fact thing, and I hope to be able to meet you. And Susan will be at the atheist experience thing. So we've got all kinds of things nailed down to.
Okay. I'll
for
be
your
staying
trip.
with Matt Delahunty while I'm there, so we're going to go out partying afterwards. So
Oh
Nice.
no.
Susan,
nice.
just plan on partying with us.
Oh no.
And when are you going to
I don't-
Austin?
I don't-
Yay.
It's the end of this month, the last
February
week.
1st.
February 1st.
February 1st. Okay.
That one.
I'll
Susan,
still
I
be
don't know if
here.
you know it, but I'm kind of a party animal.
We've
You guys
heard. We've heard.
Yeah, you guys need to have a road trip and come up, and come to my party on Memorial Day. We'll have and bring your podcast equipment with you.
We're gonna do that this time. We missed it last year, but we're gonna do it this year, one way or the other.
I always have an event on Memorial Day. Damn it.
Everyone but Jay is coming.
Well, we have it's a 24-hour party. It'll start Sunday afternoon and ends Monday afternoon. So it's a wonderful time. We'll have 6 or 7 states usually represented.
Very nice.
But I did want to put one last just say something. This is very off topic from what we've been talking about. Do we have time for another little?
Oh,
piece?
absolutely.
Sure.
Oh, okay. I am a member of and a founding member and helped start Oasis here in Kansas City. I'll be speaking at Oasis in Houston.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the deal. We started this 9 months ago and with a handful of people. And last Sunday, 2 Sundays ago, the Kansas City Star put a big article with 7 big full-color photographs in the magazine, the newspaper Star magazine, which is, very important. It comes out once a week and it's got big feature articles. So we're the feature article, and we've grown from a handful of people to 200 people last week.
Wow.
Standing room only. I don't know how many people said I'm being there next week. I'm coming. I don't know how we're going to put her. We had 70 or 80 people standing.
Wow.
And about 100 people sitting. It was just, and that doesn't count the children.
And if you're a fire marshal listening to this episode, you must stop listening right now.
The children don't count anyway.
I don't think we exceeded the limit.
No, of course you didn't. Of course you didn't.
We just didn't have quite as many chairs as we needed. And the children, it's so fun. Here's the deal. As a secularist, we need to be building community. That's what churches are good at. And we need to just steal everything we can from churches. They accuse us of being churches. I don't think we are. I think we're the Rotary Club for atheists on Sunday morning. Or the
I don't know
Kiwanis
that that's
Club for atheists.
I don't know that it's an improvement.
Well, it may not be. You're right. But the fact is, we're social creatures. We like to get together. We like to interact, and we want to raise our children in a secular environment.
No, I think it's okay to raise your
maybe
kids in a
that's
sexual environment too.
Same
We
difference.
want to raise our kids in a secular environment, and you can't take them to church because they get brainwashed there. They get infected with the God virus.
Right.
So we've got great child care. We got lots of people involved with caring for kids. So we're getting lots of families. This is a whole aspect of the movement that's never been tapped. Young people with families and children. And Oasis is doing that. Sunday Assembly is doing that. We're on the edge of something really big, I think. And Oasis in Houston started there, but I've been around to Sunday Assembly, and they've got one in San Diego, they got one in Nashville, Tennessee. There's one in there's several around. I think there's one in Washington D.C. I think there's 200 Sunday Assemblies now. So
Wow, I had no idea.
yeah, I am thrilled with this community movement of secularists. We are going to challenge, and we do all sorts of charitable events and volunteer work, and it's just an opportunity to support people in secular ways rather than having to have Jesus looking over our shoulder and saying you're going to heaven if you help them and you're going to hell if you don't. We don't have any of that bullshit. So
Amen, amen, brother. I gotta make you promise one thing though.
Yep.
Next time you come down and do the Austin, San Antonio, Houston swing, you gotta let us host you in Corpus Christi.
Yes.
Wow.
We will put you up in a nice hotel. We will.
Well, you just blew it right there. I don't like hotels.
No? Okay.
I like staying with people.
I'll put you.
I'll talk to my mother.
I'll put you.
We got places for you, buddy.
Yeah. I will put you in my daughter's bed, and she will sleep with us. And it's great.
The cat will sleep with you.
It's neon leopard print sheets, so you will look amazing.
So 1983. Nice.
That is a standing invitation to enjoy the luxuriousness of neon leopard print.
I'll bring you a tutu and a dinosaur onesie.
And no judgment.
I prefer a pink tutu, please. Man.
All right, we can.
I can do that. I can totally do that. I can get my hands on any color of the rainbow.
Right, you just put it in the rider, and we'll make it happen.
Okay. No, I would love to. I just never thought about it, I guess.
No, that's fine. Now you're thinking about it.
That's my only goal is to make you think about it. And the next time you're going to email me when you're coming down to Texas, and we are going to make you come here.
Our chat room says the title of your next book, Couch Surfing with Darrel Ray.
He's like, I'm not entirely opposed to this, actually.
Okay, well, yeah, that sounds like a good book because I could write that one just about.
I will read it.
I love when I travel, and I travel a hell of a lot. I've traveled as a corporate psychologist for 30 years of my career, so I've stayed in the nicest hotels everywhere, and I really would prefer to just stay with nice people that share my values and want to talk about shit. I love that.
Awesome.
As long as they've got a bed for me to sleep and let me go to sleep when I want to go to sleep, not have to stay up all night, I'm okay with it. But I do like to party, and sometimes I party too much.
We can accommodate that as well.
Well, if you pay the plane ticket and I have a small honorarium, I'll be down there whenever you want me. I don't have to make a special trip to Austin or anything.
Excellent. We will have you down as soon as we possibly can.
I went to Huntsville. I've been to Huntsville this year on that. And Nashville, the same thing. So it's
cool.
It's not hard. Anyway, so what was I going to say? One last thing I wanted to.
Let's talk about how awesome we are. And
last time we were on together, we just had way too much fun. And
yeah.
This is a lot of fun. You guys are easy to talk to.
I know, right?
I like that you did your homework. That impresses me.
We pride ourselves on that.
Some of us do.
Some of us.
Jay does. Jay actually read most of your book, Sex and God, and he reads none of the books that we read. He read the entire male shame article. Literally,
I like you.
literally, Darrel Ray is like most of what he's read over the last year.
Oh, shut up! Oh, shut up!
Oh, that's not even a lie. That's truth.
I read Facebook all day. No.
I want to put one last plug in. You mentioned earlier on that I'm the chairman of the Board of Recovering from Religion, but we have a huge project right now that we need volunteers for.
Okay.
And if any of your listeners are interested in this opportunity, we could use some help. It's the Hotline Project. I don't know if you've heard about it, but
I have.
The suicide, there are suicide hotlines out there, but there's no hotline you can call to talk to someone about a crisis in faith. And we've got volunteers.
Well, there are, but they're all Christian hotlines.
Exactly. They're all Christian hotlines. It'll take you right back to Jesus. What we're doing is lining up volunteers that will man phones 24 hours a day, 365 days a year to answer the phone for people who are in crisis. And we will train you. We'll show you the guidelines. You've got a user manual, everything. We'll even set you up. If you have to have a computer, of course. We will put the software on your computer. We'll teach you how to do it. And then, 4 hours twice a month, you'll be on call.
And how do we get in touch with this? How do we get in tune with this? How do we connect?
Go to recoveringfromreligion.org and look on the website there, or you can email Sarah at recoveringfromreligion.org. Sarah, spelled just SARHH, at recoveringfromreligion.org.
Does Sarah hate you for doing that? Is that something she's going to make you pay for later?
Is that me giving my email address out on the air?
Well, no, I think she's okay with it. It's probably better if you just go to the website and fill out the preliminary application.
Sure.
But
right.
this is a great opportunity to get involved and really make a difference in people's lives.
I like it.
And there's no basic qualifications. You do have to jump through some hoops, though. We don't let just anybody do this. But
Jay's definitely out because
Jay would not be qualified.
Oh, wow. I used to like you.
You have to read the manual, Jay. That's the
Is it because I'm brown? I love it.
Nailed. Thank you so much for being on.
Exactly. My pleasure. Thanks for having me on, guys.
We really appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm going to connect with you later about some podcasty stuff, and maybe we can make some more things happen.
Okay.
And we will see you in a couple of weeks down here in Texas.
Yes.
All right. Looking forward to it, guys.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Love that dude.
So much.
He's awesome.
Yes.
Our chat room agrees that we are the only podcast that should interview Darrel Ray because we're perfect.
That might be putting words in their mouth.
Maybe a little bit.
Or on their fingertips.
So let's talk about what's coming up in the next couple of weeks before we get the hell out of here.
Yes.
Well, I know next week on January 27th, we're going to be doing our long-awaited interview with Ophelia Benson. She's the author of Does God Hate Women?
Yep.
As usual. Yep.
Should have asked Darrel Ray about that, but I'm sure he would have said.
Yep.
What
else do we have going on? Karaoke's this week, right?
Is it? Oh, sweet.
Yeah, karaoke
I
is
don't know
this
if I can
weekend.
do it. I don't think I can do it.
Date and time?
Saturday
night at 8 p.m. at Barton Street Pub in Flower Bluff.
There you go. Also, just a reminder, we have our reasonistproducts.com contest going on. So if you want to make even a stick figure Muhammad cartoon, if you want to make it about anything whatsoever, if you want to make it about how Muhammad hates religion, that hates women, that would be even better. But whatever you want to do, you don't have to have artistic talent. Just put in whatever you think is hilarious or ridiculously offensive that will put us on the floor, and you will win a free t-shirt from reasonistproducts.com.
You also don't have to have any real input to go to patreon.com/Atheist Airwaves, and you can get. Are we still doing the shirts for a certain amount of donations?
Uh-huh.
Cool, yeah. So there's several options you have there for donations. Just $1 will get you access to our post show, which we are going into very shortly.
All right.
Okay,
Let's get
so
outta here.
thank you guys for listening to Atheist Airwaves. We are sponsored, of course, by Corpus Christi Atheists and the South Texas Coalition of Reason. If you would like to compliment, complain, tell us a story, anything like that, god@atheistairwaves.com. And again, thanks to Tombstone the Dead Man for our outro music.
See you guys next week.
Bye.
Post show come.
Thanks for coming, Megan.
No problem.
Being a skeptic means so much more than being an atheist. And until you accept that, you won't relate to this. That cognitive dissonance that you experience is when there's things you claim to believe in but ain't living it. Most of you say you are the type to question everything until I hear the conspiracy theories that you echoing. And when I scrutinize the things you try to say are lies, expose your sources as suspect, I see your logic dies. Some still believe in pseudosciences, engage in special pleading when theists use the exact same reasoning. I've even seen atheists use arguments from ignorance and seem pressed to tell me exactly just what the difference is. A skeptic without the ability to analyze is just as bad as a theist, cause he'll probably accept a lie. Just as long as it verifies all his biases, applying it to his knowledge pool, and then he's diving in. So I'm not saying that some conspiracies do not exist. I'm just saying that a lot of them are some bullshit. So I'ma call a spade no matter who asserts it. Nobody's perfect, and just one lie, then it's all perverted. Bring down the curtains on that sad display. The only ways to question yourself and all the things you say. Start today, and maybe we can rise above and be examples for others to emulate, and that's the way we win this battle. So this is where I'm making my stand, and now regardless who don't like it or how they get mad, see why the rest of y'all capitulate and go with the plan. I'll be beating on this wall until I'm breaking my hand. So listen while I state official policy. No matter how I'm threatened with hell, then never silence me. I know that you don't see this as imperative, but I refuse to lose and let the stupid frame the narrative.